I call Shane Ardern.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Can I take this opportunity to congratulate you on your appointment back as the Assistant Speaker, Mr Chair? I haven't had a chance to do that until now. Mr Speaker, Mr Chairman, this bill, as the previous speaker said, came to the Primary Production Select Committee, and we spent a considerable amount of time going through the issues in relation to the detail of this, and in so made some recommendations to the Minister, and I'm pleased to say that the Minister has taken up all, if not most of those recommendations. The previous speaker touched on the need for a robust identification system, Mr Speaker, and Mr Chairman, and that is absolute. We, as members of the Primary Production Select Committee, just met with a Swedish delegation of our counterparts from that country, and they were fascinated by the growth of our primary industries in this country and asked us what it was that we thought may have differentiated what we do here compared with what's happening in other parts of the world. And one of the things, Mr Speaker, when you look forward at what our opportunities might be as far as exporting our primary industry products, one of the things that does set us aside is our quality control and the checks and balances around and the assurances we can give when we market product to something like 150 odd countries in the world. One of the things that goes with that is traceability. How certain are you that the product you're selling is what you say it is, to the quality that our market is requiring and what you've suggested you're going to market it as? And so that makes it absolutely essential, Mr Chairman, that we have in place systems that can robustly check those measures. And that comes down to something as fundamental as being able to identify the particular animal in question. It's important not only from a quality control but from a biosecurity point of view as well. So the Select Committee looked at what was being proposed and listened to a wide range of submissions and called in a number of experts. And through that process we discovered that potentially we were being left behind by emerging technology. We weren't sure, and how will you ever be sure of those things? And so we asked for further advice on how we could make the NAPE bill more enabling around that. And we received some, I guess, conflicting information. The Minister had been grappling with that himself and his officials for some time. And ultimately we ended up in a situation where we've come up with provisions that enable future development in that area, so an enabling piece of legislation that doesn't lock in one or another particular piece of technology, because some of the opposition that the previous speaker spoke of earlier in the debate on this issue was around what cost there would be to the individual producer and what potential benefit there could be to the individual producer. And so as our markets have emerged and developed and prices have increased, there is more and more potential for this to not only be used for the purposes intended by MAF and the government, but by the farmer themselves in the management of their farming systems. So to enable a rapid and accurate tracking of animals from birth to death is something that's fundamental for our exports. Provide information on the location and movement and the history of animals. There is nothing more fundamental than that, and I think it was brought to the attention of MAF and to the previous government with the Waiheke Island hoax, foot and mouth hoax, where there were a lot of small lifestyle blocks, as you'd expect on a location like that, that were unidentified, or the animals thereon were unidentified, and a lot of time was spent trying to ascertain actually what was there and what the risks were. And the real irony of that is by the time that information was available, news reports and such like were reporting all sorts of things that were inaccurate. So to be able to have an accurate register of these livestock is absolutely fundamental to the integrity of our biosecurity system. So this hopefully and is intended to improve our biosecurity management. It'll help manage risks around human health. These are often overlooked. You know, the whole debate around the use of 1080 and the eradication of possums What are we trying to do here? We're trying to control, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman.
Shane Arden.
Mr. Chairman, we're trying to control the spread of tuberculosis. That has an effect on humans. It's an old disease, and it's not something that's commonly thought of as a modern-day disease, but it could be. And the interrelationship between bovine tuberculosis and human tuberculosis is well documented. So, no, there's a lot of opportunity in regard to that. To improve animal productivity is the point I think that the previous speaker was touching on. There is a range of options in terms of recording the performance of individual animals within a herd or within a flock that ultimately could lead to a profitable use by the farmer, him or herself, of this new technology. And that's something that I think is completely underexplored at the moment. It's probably more advanced in the cattle industries of dairy and beef than it is in the sheep industry, but there is an opportunity for all. It also, as I said earlier, allows a higher degree of certainty around market access. When we are marketing to the world, we need to be able to assure those markets that we are providing a product up to a standard. And it also supports a lot of the compliance issues that ministers face in international agreements around trading. And so there's a range of opportunities there, Mr. Chairman. So enabling the establishment of the NATE governing organisation is going to be a fundamental part of the whole process going forward. And, you know, the legislation needed to be solid around that. And if there's any further debate to be had, I'm sure it'll be had in the committee stages in this process. Data management systems and the protection of those and the IP involved in that has the same difficulty as any other IP data management, and so you know, the right regulation, etc., around that needs to be set. And then, of course, the species of animals that are included in it, an evolving thing, and I suspect that it won't be long before all types of animals are in there, but obviously some resistance from our sheep farming colleagues as to what benefit there could be and how you can credibly have a retention rate of the devices to make it a robust system. Because one of the challenges, I guess, is you know, with some of our high country farmers, that the animals aren't herded that often or brought together in a place where these devices could be inserted, and certainly when you talk volumes with low numbers of labour, challenges around the physical side of managing all that. So devices that can be applied, that have a retention rate that's acceptable and a reliability rate that's acceptable, that is, you know, a developing area as well. So, Mr. Chairman, I recommend the passing of this legislation. It has had a long gestation period. It has been fraught with debate, but it's good to see it getting to this point in the parliamentary process.
Mr. Chairman. The Honourable David Carter. Mr.